My friend, the 2026 NFL Draft is just 4 days away. The date is April 23rd. And while Eagles fans count down the hours to find out who Howie Roseman will select with the number 23 overall pick, there is a question that is making a lot of people in Philadelphia uncomfortable. It is not about who is coming in. It is about who might lose their job because of who is coming in. Because inside the Jefferson Health Training Complex, there are players who are starters today, who trained all year for this season, who wake up every single day locked in on that green jersey. But if Roseman hits the right button on Thursday night, those men could wake up Friday morning in a completely different situation. 4 positions, 4 starters, 4 jobs that could change hands before the season even begins. I am going to tell you who they are, why they are at risk, and what the draft could do to each one of them. But first, if you are a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. This week is going to be packed with updates every single hour. The draft is at the door, and you cannot afford to miss a thing. Before I get into the names, let me be fair with you. The Eagles roster in 2026 is solid. Most positions are locked in. Jalen Hurts at the helm. Dallas Goedert in the slot. The foundation is strong, and this team has a real shot at competing for another Super Bowl. But the draft is not just about filling holes. It is also about creating internal competition, about raising the level at every single position. And there are 4 guys who are going to feel that heat the moment Roseman opens the envelope on Thursday night. The first is right guard Tyler Steen. Let me be clear, this is not a personal criticism of Steen. He stepped into the starting lineup last year. It was his first season as a starter in the NFL, and he was solid. He did his job. He stayed healthy. But the offensive line as a whole did not perform at the level of previous years, and within that group, Steen is the most vulnerable player from a contract standpoint. He does not have a long-term deal with the Eagles. He becomes a free agent at the end of 2026, unless the front office makes a concrete move to show they trust him as the long-term starting right guard. That signal has not come. And in the NFL, when the signal does not come before the draft, it usually means something is about to change. Why does this matter so much right now? Because Roseman is leaning toward using early picks in this draft to attack the offensive line. That is Philadelphia's #1 priority. If he selects a tackle in the first round, that player could easily begin his career playing guard and develop into Lane Johnson's long-term replacement down the road when the veteran eventually retires. That is exactly what the Eagles did with Cam Jurgens before he took over at center from Jason Kelce. You know the process. Roseman knows the process. The current backups at guard are Willie Lampkin and Holland Pierce. With all due respect, that is not a list that inspires a lot of confidence for a championship-caliber franchise. If a first-round lineman walks through that door, he walks in competing for real snaps. And Tyler Steen is the first one to feel that weight. The second name is Dantavian Wixs, wide receiver. And this one, my friend, is the most interesting of the 4, because his story with the Eagles has barely started. Wixs arrived less than 2 weeks ago. The Eagles went out and got him in a trade with the Green Bay Packers, sending a 5th-round pick and a 2027 6th-round pick in return. In 3 seasons in Green Bay, he put up 1,328 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. Right after the trade, the Eagles handed him a 1-year extension worth $12.5 million. That is real financial commitment. That is not a depth player. He is today the leading candidate for the #2 wide receiver role if the Eagles finally move on from A.J. Brown. But here is the question that will not go away. What if Roseman drafts a wide receiver in the first round? Think about it. A first-round pick does not arrive to sit on the bench and learn the playbook. He arrives to produce from day one, to compete for a starting role, to make noise. That would put Wixs directly in a battle for the 2nd spot in the offense. You would have $12.5 million committed to a player who just arrived, fighting for 2nd in the receiving hierarchy against a first-round rookie full of expectations. That would be one of the most fascinating training camp battles of the summer. And Roseman, who has never closed the door on competition at any position, is not ruling it out. The 3rd starter at risk is Nolan Smith, edge rusher. The Eagles lost Jalen Phillips in free agency, and that departure genuinely hurts. Phillips was an important piece in Philadelphia's pass rush. The starting duo on the edge right now is Smith and Jalix Hunt, with Arnold Ebiketie and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka filling out the rotation. There is talent in that group, no question. But there is also a lot of inconsistency. And the Eagles know that they need more to sustain pressure on the quarterback week after week throughout a full season. Smith is a good player. Nobody is going to take that away from him. but injuries have kept him from reaching the ceiling everyone expected when he was drafted. He has brilliant moments on the field, plays that remind you why the Eagles believed in him. But he also disappears at times, and that inconsistency in a system that depends on relentless quarterback pressure is a real problem. In May, the Eagles will have to make an important decision, whether or not to pick up the fifth-year option on Smith's contract. If that option is not exercised, it sends a very loud message about how the front office views his future with the team. If Roseman selects an edge rusher in the first round, Smith does not automatically lose his starting job, but he goes under the microscope immediately, and any drop in performance during training camp could cost him dearly. The fourth and final name is Marcus Epps, safety. And this may be the most wide-open position on the entire roster right now. Reed Blankenship, who started alongside Epps, left in free agency. The Eagles are left with a clear vacancy at safety. They re-signed Epps on a one-year deal, and he is today the favorite to start next to young Andrew Mukuba. Epps is a reliable player. You know what you are going to get with him. High floor, no big mistakes, but he is also not the kind of dominant safety who can single-handedly change the outcome of a game. And there is one more detail that makes this even more complicated. Cooper DeJean, who is a cornerback, could be used as a safety in the Eagles' base defense, because the Eagles signed Rick Woolen in free agency and now have real depth on the outside at corner. With more pieces out there, DeJean is free to rotate inside when needed. Michael Carter is also in the mix for the spot. The situation is genuinely open, and if Roseman selects a safety in round 1, that player could arrive at training camp as a direct candidate to start in week 1. Epps' starting job would officially be on the line, and he would need to prove more than ever that he belongs. Now here's what connects all 4 of these situations, my friend. We are talking about an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, an edge rusher, and a safety. That is every phase of the game touched at once. Roseman is not looking to upgrade just one spot on the roster. He is positioning himself to apply competitive pressure across the board with a single draft class. One pick at 23 overall could send ripple effects through all 4 of these positions, depending on which direction Philadelphia decides to go. That is the kind of leverage that a great general manager builds deliberately heading into draft night. Looking at the full picture, these 4 cases are not a coincidence. They reflect that is how the Eagles keep growing even after reaching the top. That is how a franchise sustains excellence over years, not just one season. In 2026, with the number 23 pick in hand, and real needs at least 4 positions, Roseman has all the ammunition to do exactly that. The offensive line is the priority. The pass rush needs new blood. The safety spot is completely up for grabs. And the offense still has a real question at the number 2 wide receiver role. 4 fronts. 4 starters watching draft night with their hearts pounding, hoping that the name Roseman calls is not tied to their position. When the draft is over, at least one of these players will have to face a new reality. The competition will be real. The snaps will be up for grabs, and the best player will win. That is how Roseman wants it. That is how the Eagles work. With 4 positions in play and Howie Roseman with his finger on the trigger at pick number 23, what do you think is the best move for the Eagles in this 2026 draft? The offensive line, the pass rush, or an elite wide receiver in the first round? Drop your opinion in the comments.